I call the meeting of the Patton Township Board of Supervisors, November 10th, 2021, to order. First item of business, there are no announcements. We'll have some announcements later in the meeting, but right now there are no announcements. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. If you can, please join us in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any members of the board who wish to request that an item be added to the agenda that's not currently on the agenda? Yes. Supervisor Whitman.
Thank you. I believe this item is not directly on the agenda, but I would just like to announce to our watchers that tomorrow on Veterans Day, one of our members of the Board of Supervisors, Pamela Robb, who will be introducing a resolution later, she herself a veteran, and she will be receiving the Quilt of Valor. Thank you. I'm sorry. It is quite an honor to receive that. It will be at a ceremony tomorrow at the Hub at Penn State. So I'm very proud for you, and thank you for all of your service to our country.
Yes, I agree. Cheers. And thank you for inviting me. I shall be present to watch you receive that presentation.
Thank you.
Back to just any additions to the posted agenda. Seeing none, we will move on to public comments. Any members of the public who wish to address the board at this time on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will then move on. Item number 3A, Veterans Day Resolution. Supervisor Pam Robb has authored a resolution, and will you please read it for us?
Patton Township, Center County, Pennsylvania, resolution number 2021-024. A resolution of the Patton Township, Center County, Pennsylvania, recognizing and celebrating veterans on Veterans Day and honoring all veterans, servicemen and women of Patton Township and Center County. Whereas the brave men and women of our Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guards demonstrate a resolute, selfless, and courageous spirit that is unmatched, reminding us of their sacrifices that they were and are given today to ensure our country's many freedoms. And whereas Veterans Day provides an opportunity for Patton Township to honor the service of all veterans and their families with recognitions of their service. And whereas on November 11th, we will honor those veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifice and those whose service will be remembered by Patton Township. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Patton Township Board of Supervisors that on November the 11th, we will honor all veterans and their families and offer Patton Township sincere recognition and appreciation of their immeasurable service. Resolved on 10th day of November 2021 by the Patton Township Board of Supervisors, signed by Dan Chirino, Chair, and Pamela Robb, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Any discussion? So the resolution has been moved. Oh, Anita, go ahead. I saw your hand now.
No, thank you. Yes, I just want to thank Supervisor Robb for authoring this resolution. And to honor our servicemen and women. And I join with the other supervisors and staff in rejoicing that she herself will be honored tomorrow at the Quilt of Valor, and recalling too that her service included a stint in Germany, and many of our veterans have served around the world. So if one needs a motion to approve this resolution, I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, let's have a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Everybody raised your hand and said aye, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Pam.
Okay, and can I just ask, is my other colleague, Supervisor Elliot Abrams, if I'm not mistaken, were you in the military as well?
You're still muted. There you go.
Served in the Ohio Air National Guard as weather officer from 1969 and 1975.
Well, that counts, Elliot. So thank you again for your service as well.
Thank you.
Any other people here who are veterans? We should recognize you too. Chief Jolly, are you a veteran?
I'm not.
Larry Pigger, are you?
No, I'm not.
Well, I shouldn't be. Raise your hand if you're a veteran. I don't want to be embarrassing all of the non-veterans. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for that commendation. Well, the resolution to recognize Veterans Day and all the veterans. Next item, citizen commendation from Chief Jolly.
All right, thank you very much. It's my honor to have a special guest here tonight before the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Matthew Ryan, I believe, is joining us via Zoom. I think he's on there, right? Is he on there?
Yes.
All right, I see him there. Okay. And kind of a perfect segue, I believe Mr. Ryan this evening is celebrating the United States Marine Corps birthday, so thank him for his service as well. So, before we get to our award here, I just wanted to mention that and make sure we let him know, and I think maybe some of his friends that he might have with him there. We really appreciate all the service to our country. Mr. Ryan, it is my pleasure to present you with the Patton Township Police Department's Citizen Commendation. The Citizen Commendation is an award to members of the public who, by virtue of quick thinking and intelligent actions, positively affect the outcome of a critical incident. You demonstrated those ideals on October 10th of 2021, when an individual suffering from an accidental gunshot wound to his leg came into the National Sporting Arms seeking help. In law enforcement, we often say that it's great when an officer is at the right place at the right time, and Mr. Ryan definitely was at the right place at the right time. He also had the right training and the right equipment with him that day. But Mr. Ryan immediately jumped into action to help this individual who came in seeking help. The immediate first aid that you rendered, including using a tourniquet and packing the wound, was crucial to the individual survival and recovery. This incident may very well have ended in tragedy had it not been for your quick response. You have the many thanks and the gratitude of myself and the entire Patton Township Police Department. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. And it's great that we have citizens in our community who step up when the call is made for your assistance to help your fellow citizens. So we're grateful for everything you've done, and we're pleased that we can present the citizen commendation to you on behalf of Chief Jolly and the Board of Supervisors.
Hear, hear.
Here.
And we will actually get him his copy of the original award to him in the next few days here. So thanks again, Mr. Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, next agenda item, we're going to skip for now. 3C is continuation of discussion of CATA's Route A disruption. We're going to wait until after 6 p.m. when Mr. Parfit, our representative to CATA, will be able to join us. So let's move on to 3D, proposed 2021 township budget.
You can change it, Paul.
I believe Mr. Pegger.
Yes.
I looked up there.
So tonight, we're going to present the 2022 proposed Patton Township budget. In accordance with the second-class township code, we will present the budget and there will be a tentative adoption of the budget, I hope, if we don't have any major changes to it. If we do have a major change, which is any increase in the budget of greater than 10% in the aggregate or 25% on any individual line item or individual department, we will advertise this budget. It will be advertised in the Center Daily Times on Monday. It will be available for people to review the budget in the lobby of the township office upstairs. It is on the website under the financial documents. There's also a little statement on the front page of the website that will lead you to where the budget is. And it will also be in the reference room at the SCLO Memorial Library. So tonight we're going to present the budget and have a tentative adoption of the budget. Next Wednesday at 5 o'clock we will have the public hearing and the work session of the budget, and hopefully if there is no changes to the budget on December 8th at 5 o'clock we will have the final adoption of the budget and of the CIP that was presented at an earlier meeting. So the first thing we want to do is review the 2021 projected, what we expect 2021 to finish at. So 2021's revenue, the budget of revenue was just over $13.8 million. We're expecting that it will come in at $14.4 million, which is $600,000 over what the budget was, and the majority of that is the $800,000 from the American Rescue Plan. The expenditures were just under $15 million budgeted. It looks like it's projected to come in at $15.3 million, the $300,000 over budget, and that is mainly due to the fact that I took the ARP funds and I did an in and out on them. So they're included in the $15.3 million, the $800,000, even though we haven't spent it, just so that we get a good idea. So we're actually not over budget in the expenditures. We're under budget. Okay.
Okay, good.
The services, the continually providing services, here's some of the highlights from what we've done this year. We replaced one police patrol vehicle. We replaced one dump truck and purchased a hydro dig. We have continually, year after year, been paying out of the accumulated or accrued compensated absences due to retirements in the police department and turnover in public works. And we've completed the Burnell Road, Fox Hill Road intersection project, and the road projects that we did overlays for Tough Trees Avenue, Waddle Road, Hillside, and West Shadow Lane. The budget, the proposed budget, has no increase in real estate taxes. it will remain at 8.9 mils for real estate, with a 0.6 of a mil for open space preservation. The budget also has a 0.5% earned income tax, a $52 local services tax, and a 0.5% in real estate transfer tax. And those last three ones are the maximum rate permitted by the law. This is a graph of our millage from 2005 to 2022. And you can see that we haven't really had a increase in the real estate taxes from the board since 2012. The increase that we show in 2016, of course, was for the open space referendum that was on the 2014 ballot. The next graph shows the inflation versus the real estate tax changes. So you will see that from going back to 2024, inflation has increased about 50% overall, but the our real estate taxes have only increased at about 22%. So budgeted revenue that's proposed in the 2022 budget is $14.2 million. Of that, $4.6 million is real estate taxes, just under $300,000 in open space preservation, $2.3 million in earned income tax. The other taxes, which are LST and real estate transfer tax, total $800,000. Intergovernmental payments of $5.4 million, and non-tax sources of $700,000. The intergovernmental payments, those are the grants and the monies we receive from the federal and state. In that amount is included the second half of our $827,000 in ARP funds, the remainder of our RACP grant for the Nittany Valley Sports Complex, a grant for the Atherton and Woody Crest intersection. So it seems high, it is high in this budget, and that's because of those projects. Okay, the non-tax revenue, the assessments, which is the Homestead Farms, the street lights, and the fire hydrants, is $118,000. The licenses, permits, and franchise fees, which include the cable consortium franchise fee, is $320,000. Fines, the police department fines, $38,000. Interest of about $5,000. Departmental earnings of $58,000. The Penn State fees we get in lieu of taxes of $48,000. Rental income from COG of $38,000, and miscellaneous of $57,000 for the total of $681,000. This is the breakdown by percent. You'll see that the largest percentage in 2022 is the intergovernmental at 38%, followed by 32% in real estate taxes. The expenditures is almost $13.8 million in expenditures. General government admin services of $1.6 million, police of $3.6 million, public works operations, which I should have put on there, I apologize, public works operations of $4.8 million, engineering, planning and zoning, and parks and rec of $1.7 million, community service other of $1.1 million, debt service of $575,000, open space debt service of $245,000. You can see that police accounts for 27%, Public Works Operations accounts for 35%, which the reason why that is so high is it's the offset of the intergovernmental payments is the projects that we're going to do to spend the money. So that's in the Public Works amount for 35. So the summary is the revenues of 14.2 million, expenditures of 13.8 million. That will be an increase in fund balance of $463,000 with a year-end cash balance of 1.8 million, or 13.2% of operating expenses. This just shows our millage allocation, which does not change from 2021. The general fund is 6.2%. Our debt is 1.2. Our open space preservation of 0.6 mil, library 0.4 mil, parks capital improvements of 0.7 mil, and fire of 0.4 mils for a total of 9.5. Our personnel cost included in the proposed budget is a 4% COLA for non-uniform employees. It was 1.7 in 2021, 2.4 in 2020, and 2.2 in 2019. As you might remember, this number comes from the Consumer Price Index without food and energy at the end of August, and that number was 4%. It also includes a 1.25 merit increase for non-uniform employees on their anniversary date. The police contract, which we will negotiate in 2022 because it ends at the end of 2022, it shows for 3 years 3.25% increase per year. There is a 2.2% increase in health insurance cost, and the employee contributions for health insurance remain at 12% of the cost for non-uniform and 9% of the cost for uniform. The 2023 assumptions that are in the forecast for 2023 are a 3% combined wage increase and a 3% overall benefit increase. As I said, tonight is the presentation and hopefully tentative adoption of the budget. And next week will be the public hearing and the work session. And December 8th, hopefully, is the final adoption of the CIP and the 2022 budget. And I will take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions from the board for Larry?
Very good.
Any questions from the public? Elliot, go ahead. I see your hand.
Given the inflation occurring now, how do you think these will affect the numbers? I mean, it seems like the inflation is running higher than that. And also, is the liquid fuels reimbursement tied to the price of fuel, or is it just some other way of calculation? Because if it's based on the price, we'd be getting more funding than we might have thought.
I didn't.
Can you repeat that, Elliot? We didn't quite catch it all.
Repeat that, Elliot. All right. Now, do all the liquid fuels proceeds that we get this year, is that based on the price of fuel?
It's based on the amount of fuel that's sold statewide.
Okay, but is it based on the dollar value of it or the gallon value?
No, it's a set amount per gallon that the state and federal collects. Yeah.
Exact question. And the other thing, it seems that with inflation running ahead of where we might have thought, we're going to have to rethink this over the next couple of years, just what it actually means in terms of everything from what we're buying to our funding for our employees.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, I'll accept a motion to tentatively adopt the budget for 2022 as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Robb, seconded by Elliott Abrams. Any discussion? Let's vote. All in favor say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All voted aye, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Larry.
Anita has her hand up.
What's that?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry, Anita, go ahead.
I just wanted to compliment the staff on this presentation and suggest, as transparency goes and public education, if the communications specialist might consider, I don't know, doing a link to the CNET recording of Larry's presentation on our website or some other way, but this, I think, is a very clear explanation of the township's work and the way budgeting happens. And I just commend Larry and Doug and the whole staff for presenting it in this fashion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anita. So we can move on. The next item on the agenda, public safety, police update. Chief Jolly.
All right, thank you. Another busy month for the police department in October. We had 151 stops, 52 citations, 2 parking tickets, handled 14 criminal arrests. Our bike patrol rode 37 miles, handled 4 incidents, did 71 business checks and 2 vacation home checks. Under department notes, we arrested a 44-year-old female for felony burglary and theft by unlawful taking. She entered a residence and stole money from the homeowner there. A 30-year-old female was arrested for possessing drug paraphernalia and a prohibited offensive weapon. Our officers actually assisted the state parole, who searched the female's residence and found the contraband that we charged her with. And then we had a 41-year-old male taken into custody for an outstanding warrant, and while the officers searched that individual, they located some drug paraphernalia in his pockets. 4 arrests were made for disorderly conduct, 5 for retail theft. Our officers successfully served 5 warrants of the 7 they attempted, and they did 4 vacation home checks. We did use force during one incident in October. Some of our officers observed a male who was known to have active felony warrants for his arrest at a local store early in the morning. They called for additional units and attempted to make contact with the male as he exited the store. The officers tried to grab onto the male's arms as he attempted to flee on foot. The male was taken to the ground where he was handcuffed. He did not report any injuries. However, a Ferguson Township Police Department officer who was there helping did suffer an injury to his shoulder. The male was charged with possession of controlled substances, paraphernalia, resisting arrest, and receiving stolen property. Some of the community relations activity that we had in the agency, a lot with the Children's Safety Fair. We discussed it a little bit last month, but I just want to reiterate how fantastic the event was this year. Very, very well attended. We absolutely, in the police department, treasure our relationship with the Patton Township Business Association. We couldn't pull off that event without their assistance. The volunteers that come out in full force. So it's easy for the law enforcement to get our fire trucks and our ambulances and our police cars there, but the volunteers from the community and the business community really make that truly a great event. There wasn't a kid there I didn't see with a huge smile on their face. They all had a fantastic time, but just a great opportunity also for the adults to interact with law enforcement and the business community here in Patton Township. So I still consider this to be the crown jewel event in community relations in Center County, really. And it's amazing to me that at 8 o'clock in the morning, that parking lot is totally empty, and by 10 o'clock it is bustling, and by 4 o'clock it is totally empty again. So it's quite an undertaking, and we really appreciate all the volunteers and again the relationship with the Business Association. Did a lockdown drill at the Park Forest Elementary School. The other big event that we participated in was Operation Safe Stop, which promotes bus safety and helps curb school bus violations. So we had a few officers following some school buses on the routes just to make sure that the children were safe and that the traffic was abiding by the laws. We did make one traffic stop during that detail. Some of the training and department activities, our officers attended tactical response team training. Sergeant Shapanko and Sergeant Stroud attended the Police Executive Research Forum ICAT training. Dr. Ben Jones brought this training up early on in our discussions about a year and a half ago, and we were finally able to get it hosted here locally. We went to Ferguson Township. But ICAT is an acronym for Integrating Communications, Assessment, and Tactics. And basically ICAT is a training program that provides first responding police officers with tools, skills, and options they need to successfully and safely diffuse a range of critical incidents. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten from the officers that attended was that we are ahead of the curve. We are doing a lot of the things that they are recommending that we do already. We already have those in our policies, our procedures, and our use of force. But we picked up, of course, any training, a few new tricks that we'll add into our policies and our procedures and our training. So it was very, very good training that our officers attended. So moving on, we had a few performance reports. This kind of goes hand in hand with the award that we gave out to Mr. Ryan earlier. We had 2 incidents where individuals were in cardiac arrest, and our officers were able to quickly get to scene. Again, luckily we have the training and the tools we need to handle these types of situations, as generally we're the first ones on scene since we're out and about. But all of our officers carry oxygen and AEDs in their cars, and in one of the instances we actually did administer a shock to a patient to get their heart started back up again. So very thankful that we had the officers in the right place at the right time on those instances as well. We had 2 letters from State College Borough Police Department, one from a lieutenant and one from their assistant chief, thanking Officer Elijah Barzell for his assistance during a vehicle versus bicycle accident. The bicyclist did suffer some pretty severe injuries, and he is fresh out of that training that I just told you about, where we had the accident reconstruction training hosted here. So luckily he had the training to be able to go and assist their agency. And once again, something we cherish is our relationship with all the Center Region departments, Center County departments, mutual aid. At the drop of a hat, we could have officers from State College, Bellefonte, Spring here in a heartbeat to help us. So we really appreciate all the help and are happy to offer our assistance whenever we can. I have 3 photos that I took, speaking of the safety fair, just to show kind of an overview. These were taken from Alpha's aerial ladder. So this is early on in the event, so it doesn't really necessarily depict the true numbers of what we saw there that day. But I like to get a photo once we get everything kind of set up. So those 3 photos just wanted to include in there to, again, just show a little bit of the setup and kind of what we had going on that day at the safety fair. And then lastly, we have our record list for our calls for service for the month of October. The total was 522. That's up from September when we had 500. Of the 522 calls, 137 of those were traffic calls. 69 of those were from Chick-fil-A, at the address for Chick-fil-A. I did go through, our officers gave out 122 warnings or stopped 122 motorists from making the illegal left turn into there. We did handle 1 accident, but it was a parking lot accident inside the parking lot. The traffic issues did not contribute to the accident. And our second most call for service was the health and safety EMS assist out helping the ambulance services. So that completes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, can you go over that 69, how many was written at Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, so we had 69 calls for service at that address. Now, my officers, so that's if the public calls, and also I have my officers point an incident if they go. Oftentimes they may go and there may be 3 cars lined up and they tell 3 people, hey, you can't make the left. So we document, and that's where we came up with the number of 122 warnings to those individuals for the month of October.
Thank you.
Cite anybody or just
I don't believe we did cite anybody this month. I know we did last month. This is kind of to me, it's a sign, 122. If we wrote 122 tickets, I don't know that it's going to change the behavior still. I mean, again, I think the warnings are effective, but that just goes to show that literally as soon as we leave, within 5 minutes, not even, sometimes within 30 seconds, we're right back to where we were. So we obviously don't have the resources to staff that all day long. But you can see that's quite a bit of officer time is being contributed to that location. I know at least one of them was on a Sunday when the business isn't even closed. We had to warn somebody that they weren't allowed to make the left turn into the closed business. But I had, an officer actually just spoke to me about the issue today. He was down there, made a traffic stop. One of the problems with us making a traffic stop is it kind of makes things more congested. You're going into a small, obviously they have it very kind of blocked off with the traffic pattern they have in there now. So now we have a vehicle stopped and trying to get them moved over into the parking lot area. While we're addressing that, there's 4 other cars coming in and doing it, and the motorist we have stopped is concerned, and well, how come they're not, So it kind of creates a lot of issue when we do try to enforce it and we do try to make a traffic stop and maybe address it with the person. It's still definitely something we're dealing with on a daily basis, so.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to also point out what a great experience the safety fair was for 2 of us representing local government, the Patton Township, and COG, the staff. So Pam Adams, the sustainability director, and I staffed a table where we educated people about the impact on health and safety that climate change brings in the form of increased flooding due to the increased rain and the irregularity of the rain which is coming. But the point I want to make is we introduced ourselves as local government, and I thought it was a very good PR opportunity. People really saw a very concrete example of what local government does, and it was very gratifying to both of us, and we had a little craft involved, so I think we also got across the message as we on the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee are charged to do in the coming years. So it was a perfect venue for that.
Agreed. Yeah. We're going to shoot for May of next year, so we're going to try to do it in May if we can.
Right.
So,
Oh, good.
so I'll make sure I pass along that information if you'd like to participate
Yeah.
again. Absolutely, we'd be happy to have you. So, yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Anita, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, 3 items. Yes, on the Children's Fair, the folk who had the Boy Scout display said if it was in the spring, they might actually have the Pinewood Derby competition as part of that. So I think they will be especially thrilled to hear that it would be in the spring. 2 other items. On the never-ending Chick-fil-A, and I think the police are doing everything you can. I think it's time to have a regular monthly update to the public because they keep asking what's happening in Chick-fil-A. Would it be possible for the owner to zoom in next meeting or next month to give a monthly update on what Chick-fil-A locally and nationally? I know you've had a good Zoom meeting with the powers that be, but the public just hears that there's multiple violations still happening, and I think it's time that Chick-fil-A gives a regular reporting to the public about it, or at least an update every once in a while. Would it be possible to invite the owner, Mr. Harold, to zoom in and give us a report on what they are hoping to accomplish to mitigate this problem?
We can request, yeah.
I think that I'd like
I mean,
to.
I'd rather hear from the whole
board.
board if that's what they'd like.
I think it's a great idea. I think it may, 1, it educates the public, and 2, it may spur a little quicker action on their part. I think the public also needs to be updated on a regular basis about the plans of Chick-fil-A to add that second line in the service lane, or the drive-through lane.
I will say he's not going to have a lot to report from month to month.
He won't, but I think his mere
Well,
presence,
Well,
even if it's just 1 sentence. Let's try it for 1 month.
we'll request him. We'll request his presence.
I I'd also take the opportunity to add that I got a call from Evan Myers, who is a council in the borough, council person, and he had a personal, experience with this, but he said he also, but with the traffic that is, but he said he also gets regular calls from people at the borough. Of course, they all think that Chick-fil-A is part of the borough. So this is noticed region-wide.
Just understand, we have very limited options that we
I
can.
explained that, but
Okay.
it is a PR problem, I think, for Patton Township. We are doing the best we can, but I don't think it's
I think, yeah,
necessary.
I think you can respond, you can send folks to Chief Jolly if you'd like.
Okay,
I mean, Chief Jolly's take calls on a regular basis from folks. I send them all to Chief Jolly.
okay.
And he can explain, what we are doing, where the limits are, what we can do.
Or maybe that's just a.
I don't know that it's our problem. I think we need to make it Chick-fil-A's, but having the owner come on in a public meeting, I'm not sure is quite the best
Okay, well,
option. But we'll ask him to come.
Right, but perception, I agree, perception is reality, and in the eyes of the public, it is our problem, not Chick-fil-A's problem. So that's what I perceived anyway.
Well, is it possible we can get them to come in at least once every 6 months? Hopefully we'll have something tangible for our residents and for our colleagues in the other township. I don't think.
Yeah, we'll ask him to come in and
Okay,
say,
good, yeah.
see what he wants to say, what he wants to divulge at this point, so.
Okay, Elliot,
Thank
you
you.
have your hand raised, go ahead. You're still muted, Elliot.
Right.
There you go.
Isn't that road actually a state highway, state-maintained highway?
Yes,
Don't you have to have an occupancy permit to
Yeah.
occupy it?
and they have one that's not restricted.
Okay, and so it has nothing to do with what people are actually doing out there. I think the state could help us though in the enforcement or signage that on their road that's in the township. I think if
We've been in contact with PennDOT. The signage that is out there is what's permitted. PennDOT will not let anything be constructed in the median. They're afraid it will conflict with access to the driveways across the street from Chick-fil-A. So in terms of what we can do in the road, everything's been done. Almost
this is what
everything
they-
except some driveway improvements.
So this is what they told you after they visited the site and saw the problem?
Yeah, we've had them out there on site, watched the problems and asked all kinds of questions and made all kinds of suggestions, and what I just reported has been their response.
Okay. It's frustrating.
Yeah, Doug, can you also?
If I,
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Doug, can you also explain the deed-connected right of left-hand turn or entrance that each of the properties
Yeah, what PennDOT's,
own?
yeah, PennDOT's, what restrains PennDOT is that the property owners on, I'm gonna say on the other side of the road from Chick-fil-A, because Chick-fil-A is the only one in that block that has a driveway on that side, but there's two other driveways on the other side, of the north side of the road. Those property owners have a property right that includes left turns in and out of those driveways. So for PennDOT or Patton Township, or any other government agency that might think they had authority, to take that, we can take the right of way, but we have to pay we have to pay those owners for the value of that property right. And there are ways to assess what that property right are, but we can't just go in unilaterally and close those things off. PennDOT would not do anything really. PennDOT will not assist in any ways or means. If we wanted to do some sort of left turn restriction through that section, it would all be on Patton Township. So.
And it wouldn't be cheap.
It'd be more than you want to spend.
Well, and those property owners would have to agree, and They-
Well, I mean, there's probably a way we can, do a taking, an eminent domain taking, but you still have to compensate them. It's, you have to, there's probably more fight about what the compensation, what's the proper compensation after that. First we'd try to do it by agreement, and, if you get to the point where you can't get agreement, but you still want to go through with the project, you do it by eminent domain, which is that's the last thing we want to do, so.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, Anita, you had your hand raised, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Yes, thank you. Doug, this is excellent information. And I think, again, if we could ask our communication specialist to have a question and answer session on the website, because these are the questions the public say, well, why can't PennDOT do something? Why can't this? Why can't that? The way you've just explained it now explains the limitations that both the township and PennDOT have. I think, as Supervisor Whitman pointed out, this is a public issue and a public perception issue. And basically I'm hearing that the township's hands are tied, and so there's nothing we can do, so we are just at stalemate, and that there's apparently nothing that Chick-fil-A is planning to do to ameliorate the situation, which means we're going to continue to have this situation. And the least we can do is, or the best we can do is to at least communicate some of the answers as to why not this, why not that, why not this. I appreciate your explanation, Doug. That's more than, I think that's the kind of thing the public needs to hear. And if the owner would come in even with an end of year report, maybe at our December meeting, this year's ended, I think it would, the public needs to know that Chick-fil-A is taking this seriously, because they don't see any changes happening. But I have one other observation on the police items, as soon as the Chick-fil-A discussion that I've initiated is
Okay, I'll
concluded.
come back to you, Anita, on that. Let me just quickly respond to one of the things you mentioned. In the Zoom meeting that Pam and I had with the Chick-fil-A representatives, both the local owner and members from corporate, there was some information they shared that they asked us not to really publicize, but there is one, they're in the process of developing expansion plan for the building itself to create a second drive-through lane with, pickup on, so you have pickups on both sides of their entrance lane. Right now, there's only one pickup lane, so they would double their capacity for drive-throughs, and there would be a double lane all the way around the building, and not just through the first part of the entrance, which currently exists. But those plans clearly, require construction, permitting first. Construction, well, the construction is an issue now because it's hard to find contractors who aren't already scheduled months and months in advance. So it's not that they're not planning to do something, they are, but it's just going to be very long-term with respect to ameliorating it at that point, the current condition. Elliot, you have comment on Chick-fil-A? You're muted.
Being muted probably is a benefit to everyone else, but I just wanted to, from a standpoint of the township, what's our liability here? If there's a bad accident caused by this problem, I'm sure that we won't find there's a shortage of lawyers willing to come after us, despite the economy. What is the situation with that? Are we liable for this?
We've done everything that we can possibly do at this point. So I would say although Betsy, if you ask Betsy, she'll say anybody can sue anybody, but we've, covered our rear ends, let's put it that way. I don't see us having any extraordinary liability on this matter.
I don't think we should. I mean, we've tried to solve this problem. We can't physically go in there and alter that property and its shape.
And I don't disagree with the manager. I mean, this is a PennDOT issue, quite frankly. If something happens, it's going to happen either on the private property of the Chick-fil-A or in the PennDOT right-of-way. They could name the township as a party, but ultimately PennDOT is, and they of course have all kinds of immunity, as we know. So yes, we could be named, but I think we would easily be dismissed from a suit on the basis that we've done everything we can do. It is also not our roadway. The restrictions on that driveway are PennDOT driven. PennDOT gives you an HOP and they take away HOPs. And while we could certainly, as the township, try to do some of the things the manager was talking about, this ultimately is a public highway owned by the Commonwealth, and they have the responsibility to address the issues related to it. And the fact that they won't, which I think the managers explained, is not uncommon. It's not uncommon across the Commonwealth. I know Ms. Whitman can probably cite 4 or 5 roadways from where she previously lived that are now better in the long run, but certainly when she was living there, were not. And I'm thinking specifically, Betsy, now about roadways in Montgomery County and things of that nature. So I understand the frustrations and the anxiety. I think Anita's suggestion is not a bad one, but I think, you're never going to answer all the questions for the public. And I could equally tell you that as many times as I've seen Chick-fil-A backed up, I've also seen people trying to pull into Jersey Mike's, and I like Jersey Mike's, I'm not picking on them, but one of the problems you have with center turn lanes in any kind of fashion, and the state is the worst at that, is that you create all kinds of traffic conflicts. I don't know how many of you remember when you used to travel from Huntington to Mount Union, Route 22 used to have passing lanes. And they had to have a few people die on that stretch of road before they eliminated those passing lanes. I'm sorry to say it that way, but sadly, that's one of the problems in road construction is we don't think about those things. So in any event, I think, Elliot, you could get sued, but I don't think you have any responsibility here.
I remember when all the 3-lane roads in Pennsylvania just about were passing lanes along the entire length. And you just had dotted lines there and you just had to watch yourself.
I was going to say that, Elliot, but I didn't want to date myself.
Well, I did, but it was after my time though.
Touche.
Any other comments on
Quick question, what is HOP?
Yeah, go ahead.
HOV?
Highway occupancy permit.
Thank you.
Okay, going back to Supervisor Tees, go ahead.
One other brief suggestion. Chief Jolly, I'm so touched by how frequently our policemen and police officers are literally saving lives. The report for this last month where they brought folks back who had no pulse, and there have been other events which maybe are not in the life-saving category, but where the police have received these wonderful thank you letters for how the police have gone above and beyond. And I'm just wondering, the township has once a year, they honor the volunteers on the ABC committees. If the township might want to think long-term of once a year having kind of a summary recognition. I know there's at the county level, they honor a policeman at the county level, but our township to put forth for the public, all of these letters and commendations that our police officers have received from the public. You often hear whenever a policeman happens to make a little mistake, it's all over the news, but the good news of what our police are doing, and it's really consistently excellent month after month. I'm just wondering if there might be thought given in 2022, maybe towards the end of the year, having a police appreciation from the public recognition where a number of these letters and citations and recognitions can all be included for the public's benefit, as well as for recognition of the good work our police do day in and day out. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Robb, you had something you also wanted to present.
Yes. At the Joint Public Safety, Public Service, Environmental, Transportation, and Land Use Committee meeting, Chief Jolly and myself were present for that. Chief Baird from the Alpha Fire Department announced that there was a fatal traffic accident on I-80 this weekend. Jim, as he's affectionately known, Curl, was struck and killed. Jim was the owner and operator of Valley Truck and Trailer Company based in College Township. He was a valued Type 4 member of the Alpha and Ballsburg Fire Department. Chief Baird stated that this was a significant loss to the department and to the community. Patton Township's Board of Supervisors and staff would like to extend our condolences to the family and to the fire departments who has lost one of their own. There's a move over to slow down law, which is in compliance and constantly not appreciated or not used. Chief Baird stated on Interstate 99, they have been out there 52 times already this year, and that he is very concerned for his people and their safety when they go out there. An important message we are asking our public is to comply with the move over to slow down law. It is vital, for it may just save a life. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Robb. Any other comments? Okay, if not, I see Mark Parfit has joined our Zoom session, so we're going to back up on the agenda to 3C, CATA's Route A disruption. Correspondence with CATA Board Chair. Doug, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, Mr. Parfit, who's our representative to the CATA Board of Directors, had approached the board back in October about changes that the board had implemented. Primarily, it was the disruption or the loss of the A route, which serves Park Forest. Previously, we've lost service because of cutbacks to the G route, which goes out to parts of Gray's Woods, but the A route has been completely eliminated. Mr. Parfit pointed out several issues to the Patton Township Board of Supervisors where he thought the CATA board should have given more emphasis. Following up on that, Mr. Trevino, the chair, sent a letter to the CATA chair board or CATA board of directors. There's been some back and forth conversation in writing between John Spachalski, who's the chairman of the CATA board, and Dan Trevino, our chair. The latest correspondence was November 4th letter from Dan to CATA, and then we got a two-line acknowledgement from CATA that they had received that letter and they were going to potentially discuss the issues at their November 20 or their board meeting in November, which I believe is on the 25th. I lost my copy of the letter there. 22nd.
22nd, November 22nd.
So with that, I had reached out to Mark also and told him we were going to have this on the agenda tonight. He was tied up from at 5, but he joined. He's on with us now. And with that, I will turn the conversation back to you, Dan, and Mark, and the rest of the board.
Yeah, thanks again, Mark, for your service for the township, serving on the CATA board for 6 years. Is there anything you wish to add to what we've received so far from CATA?
No, I I initially had hoped we would have been able to discuss this at our October CATA meeting. Unfortunately, that meeting was canceled, and we didn't have that opportunity, but I did get the confirmation that it should be discussed with the CATA board in November, like Doug mentioned.
Let me ask you a question, Mark. Are the CATA board meetings open to the public?
They are, and they can be just like this, in person or via Zoom.
Are they televised by CNET?
They are not.
They're not.
No.
So let's see, there's November 22nd is the next board meeting.
Yeah, that sounds
I
right.
would,
Usually at 5.
as long as I'm not otherwise committed, I plan to Zoom in or connect via Zoom to that board meeting and participate if I'm allowed. Any other board members who wish to do that?
Thinking the same.
I know Pam, you're a regular bus rider, so it definitely impacts you.
I'll check. Usually, some of their board meetings are scheduled when we have our general forum meeting or usually a COG meeting. So,
Mark,
I think we can make this one.
do you have a time of that meeting offhand?
The meetings start at 4 o'clock, and I don't get the agendas too much in advance, but once I do and get a sense of when that might fall, I can be sure to share that information. And I can let the board liaison know that there will be representatives from the township attending, and she'll make sure you all get the information.
Thank you, yeah, that would
Thank
be.
you.
What day of the week is that, November
It's
22nd?
a Monday.
It's on Monday.
Okay,
Monday at 4 p.m., so that doesn't
Gotcha.
interfere with general forum.
okay, gotcha.
Okay.
I'll put it-
Anything else, any other comments or questions from the board or from the public?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Mark.
you, Mark.
Thanks for continuing the conversation.
Sure. Okay, now we'll go back. For now, before we start on the next Public Works thing, I'm going to call a brief recess, 5-minute recess. calling an end to the recess and calling this meeting back to order. Next item to discuss is number 5, Public Works. 5A, Reorganization of Public Works Department. Doug?
Thank you, Dan. Up till now, the Public Works Department, and more specifically the Public Works Director, had quite a broad range of duties. With the vacancy in the position here since August, I've reevaluated, identified some issues that I thought needed to be dealt with more directly than prior directors had time to, because of the wide range of responsibilities they had. So I have taken the liberty to create a new structure under Public Works, essentially splitting the department into 2 new departments. This will all become effective on Monday, December 6th. We're going to call one part of the operation Public Works Operations, and then the other side will be Engineering, Planning, and Zoning. The Public Works Operation will focus on maintenance, both short-term and long-term. And that includes everything that the road crew does today, including plowing snow and spreading salt and all that fun stuff, to the long-term stuff we do, and we do road overlays, and we'll be doing more and more storm drain maintenance over the next few years too. So Public Works is the maintenance side, and then on the other side with Engineering, Planning, and Zoning, their focus will be on the land development process, which we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in, and then also the creation of new assets, new things in our parks. You know, when we do major upgrades to roads, like when we did the left turn lanes along Valley Vista, that would be in the hands of Engineering, Planning, and Zoning. So with that, staffing has been arranged, and announcing, rolled this all out last week with lots of conversations with all the people involved, and made it public on Friday with the publication of this agenda. So the directors of these new departments will be one, Ken Soder, Public Works Operations, and then Alexandra Castrocini will head up Engineering, Planning, and Zoning. And as you note, the next item on the agenda would be to have the board appoint Ms. Castrocini to the position of Patton Township Engineer, which is a position that comes up under the second-class township code. Technically, her real title will be Township Engineer / Director of Planning, or Engineering, Planning, and Zoning. But you may not know, I think everyone knows Alexandra pretty well. You've seen her here at meetings over the last 2 or 3 years, and she's done a very good job since she came on as assistant engineer with the township. You know, and I made her acting, and the board and made her acting township engineer in August, and she stepped up to the responsibility and has done just a really good job in the last few months. So I'm very pleased to put Alexandra in that position, and we'll work with her in learning management skills and all those other fun things. The management, I told her, you know, she's at the point in her career where she'll now start doing less engineering and more managing, and probably won't be near as much fun. But I'm sure she will do a good job. Ken, you may not know. Ken's with us on Zoom. Wave to us, Ken.
Yeah.
Ken has been with the township for over 20 years. I'm pretty sure Ken was the first person I hired after I came to the township.
Yeah.
Ken, I hired him as a zoning officer. Back then, zoning officer was a full-time job. It's less so these days. And I will say Ken has done a lot of things behind the scenes that you are not aware of. Probably most people are not aware of. Ken has filled in every time I've asked him to do something. He's stepped up. Ken has plowed snow. Ken has picked up leaves. Ken has chipped brush. He's done all those things in addition to doing what he does in the office on a daily basis. Ken also, our open space project manager, which not only does working with the Open Space Stewardship Committee, but he's the one who does a lot of the work actually out on the ground. So Ken approached me, said he was interested. After discussions and some back and forth, I agreed to put him in that position. His job will be really focused on the road crew. We've had a fair bit of turnover on the road crew in the last 2 or 3 years. We want to reduce the turnover, as everybody's been talking about with labor shortages. It's also hitting us. Commercial driver's license holders are hard to find. The last couple of hires we did for the road crew, we hired people who do not have their CDL, and we're going to have to train them and get them licensed. And we've had to raise starting wages for CDL. Everybody in the regions have, that's been a conversation amongst the managers all around is, what are you paying this week for road crew folks? So Ken will be focusing on that part of the operation, as long as, and with the day-to-day, we started talking about incentive packages for the road crew personnel as they learn new skills, new certifications, how they would get incentivized and rewarded for those things. So Ken will start that on December 6th, as I noted, and you saw there was an org chart on the agenda. Like I said, Ken, Public Works operation will primarily be road crew and road superintendent, mechanic, and those people who work on that side of the operation. The Public Works secretary will support both departments, as will our engineering tech. And then under Alexander in the engineering, planning, and zoning, we'll have the engineering tech, project manager Susan Wheeler. The new zoning officer will have to hire somebody. We'll start by looking internally to see if anybody's interested. Nicole Pollock, who's our COG planner, and our SEO will also be in that engineering, planning, and zoning structure over there. It's a big change internally. Not so much what people do from day to day, but more who's going to do what. When the accounting people had several questions for me this week about, who's going to do what, and which bills go to which people, and all that. And I said, well, we'll get that sorted out by December 6th. But yeah, there are more questions than even I anticipated. But what I really emphasized to everybody, although it's a big change internally, I don't think it should not be a big change externally to what the people, the residents, the citizens see out there. Really aren't going to see anything. I think even when you call the township, Nicole Harder will probably still answer Public Works when she picks up the phone. And she'll just have to, before, she triages those calls, figures out which calls go to who, and she'll figure that out fairly quickly. Like I said, I spent last week having several conversations with everybody that's on that org chart. So I know there will continue to be questions, and I'll have to do some more explaining. I mean, people have questions about what, exactly who will do what. Like I said, people will continue to do the things they've done. We're not changing any of those great big tasks, but it's a little bit of who reports to who and who signs off on what, and we'll get that all figured out. So I want to let the board all know about that. We'll be working got rolled into the 2022 budget. There weren't a whole lot of changes to the budget. We primarily just for 2022, we just moved a few of the salary positions from one part of the budget to another. We didn't, there were some line items that, it's not worth splitting $1,000 line item into two $500 line items. So some of the minor stuff got left in the Public Works, but you'll see probably a little bit of change to the agenda come January 1st with some of the headings for the major sections, but beyond that, things should operate pretty well. With that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Quick question, you may not have gotten to this yet because of all the details you're trying to work out now. You had appointed Larry and Tyler as assistant deputy managers or whatever to take, 3-month rotations.
Yeah.
And are you planning to make the 2 new directors?
Yes, they'll go into that starting in January.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was.
So you'll have 4.
Yep.
Okay. That's good. That'll help you a bit.
And it helps them,
Yeah.
look up and see what the next level of things are, and gives them a taste, and if they're interested in that sort of thing.
Other questions from the board? Yeah, Elliot, go ahead.
First, I wanted to make the motion to make the appointments official. And secondly, I wanted to tell Doug, I think this is one of the best things you've done as manager, recognizing this need and then finding people within our organization who are already doing a great job to fill the positions that will have more responsibility. And that's a great thing, I think, in any organizations, and I just think this is good all around.
Thank you.
I second that, for sure.
Sorry, that wasn't a question.
Yeah, I know you're proposing a motion, but let me just see if there any board members or any of the public have questions or comments on the reorganization.
No, I agree. I agree with my colleague. And congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
I also heard that she is the first female, right? If I'm not mistaken,
That's my understanding.
to get this.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
I guess I'm jumping the gun, but congratulations.
Well, not to leave Ken Soder out, I do know Ken and have many occasions to interact with him, and I've always been very pleased with those interactions. That he's quite responsive to everything. He's sort of the manager of the community garden. He does all the troubleshooting when things break out there, need replacing whatever. So anyway, congratulations also to you, Ken, as well as to Alexandra on your new position. So I know all of us on the board are looking forward to having more interactions with you as director of your department whenever something comes up that the board needs
Thank
to
you.
hear from. You're welcome. So Elliot has proposed a motion to appoint Alexandra Castrocini as the township engineer,
I'll second.
and seconded by Ms. Whitman. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I'll just have a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Yay!
Aye. All
For
raise-
both.
Whoop, whoop. All 5 voted yea, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next item, which is 6, planning and zoning. 6A is zoning hearing board decisions. Doug?
I'll give you the short version, and if you want the long version, I'll give you that. Zoning hearing board met last week, rendered decisions on 2 cases that involve signage, which is not something they normally deal in, but the way our code book is set up and under Chapter 140, which is signs, there are a couple of instances where our zoning hearing board is empowered and authorized to make rulings on signage. The first case had to do with Wegmans store. They're changing their branding to the Wegmans logo that you'll see. It used to be standard, or not standard, but a real kind of a block letter Wegmans. The new one is more of a script. It has a W that sticks up and a G that sticks down, and the W sticks out to the left a little bit. So they filed a couple of appeals. Their first application for a sign permit was denied because it was too big. We measure signs by take the smallest rectangle typically that you can fit around a complete sign, and that's how you measure the sign. They had asked for a variance based on what's called de minimis. De minimis in a legal sense, at least from the zoning point of view, is generally considered something that's less than 10% over what the regulation is. They provided a optional way of measuring the size of the sign. The zoning hearing board agreed with them and did provide them the de minimis de minimis variance on Wegmans sign. So they will reapply for their sign permit, and the sign officer will approve it as long as it's in compliance with what they showed the zoning hearing board. In the second case, there's a option in our sign regulations for people to apply for a special exception to sign standards. That special exception is for signage that's quote-unquote unique and demonstrates excellence in planning and design. Those cases are first heard by the Planning Commission, who also acts as our sign review board these days. The Planning Commission thought, let me back up a half a step. This involves the Patton Crossing development, which is a mixed-use development on Atherton Street at Woody Crest Avenue. The Aldi store is the first building that's been constructed and opened in Patton Crossing. You notice they have a retaining wall there on the corner that curves around the corner. They have applied for this special exception for a sign that says Patton Crossing that would sit on top of that first level of that retaining wall. There was a graphic illustration of the signage included in the agenda materials, but that sign was approved by both the Planning Commission and the Zoning Hearing Board as meeting the requirements for a special exception. So the sign officer / zoning officer will approve that when they bring it in for a permit. The Zoning Hearing Board is an independent body, although the members are appointed by the Patton Township Board of Supervisors. They act independently. Their decisions, if anybody wants to appeal their decision, that decision can only be appealed at County Court of Common Pleas. So even if the Board of Supervisors did not agree with that one of their decisions, we, the township governance, would have to take them to court at the county level and make our case in front of a judge in Bellefonte. Under my tenure, the Board of Supervisors has never done that, but just to remind everybody, we don't see these zoning hearing board cases in Patton Township very often, but remind everybody what the process is. So no action is required of the board unless they wish to contest something, and then we would have to work with the solicitor to make that happen. So with that, I'll turn back to the board and see if there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board or from the public? Does any board member wish to contest the decision of either of these two cases? Seeing none, we will now move on. All right, next item is 7A, vacancies on township authorities, boards, and commissions. Doug?
Thank you. Yeah, noted on the agenda that we have a couple current vacancies, and I'll be working with Pam and Elliot as the ABC committee to get filled, and we also have 4 vacancies that will occur at the as of January 1st. I just want to take a couple moments to recognize there are a couple people who are term limiting off of ABCs. We'll get a chance to recognize them again in January or February when we do our volunteer recognition dinner. But I just want to know George Doan has been on the Open Space Stewardship Committee for 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
George has been really, a great supporter of open space, and with his forestry knowledge, he's been a good resource also. So George will be term limiting off. I told him if he was interested in anything else, we'd see what we could do. Cindy Solik, who has served 9 years on the Recreation Advisory Committee, is also term limiting off. I believe this is the second time that Cindy Solik has term limited off the RAC. She will stay on as our representative to the Center Region Parks and Rec. Yeah, she term limited off, was off for a couple of years, got reappointed, and she's now done another 9 years. So Cindy's been on the RAC for as long as I've been here, in one manner or another. Also want to note Harry McAllister, who served a 4-year term on the Planning Commission, regrettably informed me that he was not able to serve another term, so that's why we have an opening on the Planning Commission. Just want to make sure people, like I said, we'll get another chance to recognize those folks at our volunteer recognition dinner. Hopefully that we'll be having early in 2022. Follow up, one other thing, our communication specialist, Sophie Weston, has created a fillable form for our ABC application, so that's up on our website now, I believe. She told me she was putting it up.
I believe it is.
Yeah, so you can direct people to the ABC page on the website, and they should be able to find a fillable form, fillable PDF that they can fill out and attach to an email and send it right back. With that, unless there's questions, we can move on to the next item.
Any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, then we can move on. The next item is the consent agenda. Does any member of the board wish to pull one of these items for separate discussion? Seeing no request for that, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Robb, second?
Second.
Second by
Or
Supervisor
Elliot also had his hand up. Probably Elliot.
Either, take your pick, Doug.
Okay.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's have a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 We have a unanimous aye vote, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Manager's report.
On the letter that we sent to our congressional representatives about reconciliation bill, we did get a response from Senator Toomey. That was included in the supplemental materials that went out yesterday. We did receive a land development plan for a medical office building in Toftree West. I think there was something in the newspaper about it today or yesterday. Mount Nittany Health Center.
Right.
So it's a very large medical office building, 155,000 square feet. So staff has started reviewing that, and that may be on the board's agenda for December.
Let me interrupt you.
Sure.
There's been no road construction in Toftree West, so
The road construction will be part of this plan.
Would have to, yeah.
okay.
Unless they're going to medevac
So,
everybody.
all right.
Right, as you recall, the
Yeah.
developer was awarded a grant for that road work also. So yeah, all the road work from the Toftree and Wattle Road intersection up into the west and to serve this building is all included in that plan.
It's a
So if
start.
you'd like to see the plans, it's a big plan set. We do have we can give you a Dropbox link if you'd like to take a quick look at the plan.
That's
Okay.
it.
Or we can pull together a cut-down set of sheets and send that out too. We'll do that too. You don't need 80 sheets or whatever it was. But it looked like a fairly good plan. There'll be some discussion items, but I took a quick look at it the other evening and it looks pretty good. And hopefully it'll generate more action there too, especially once the road's there. I don't think I had any other announcements or anything. No. We are open tomorrow. We use it as a floating holiday, so most of the staff takes off Black Friday. in lieu of Veterans Day. So we are open tomorrow, and we are closed on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. We are open also on the Monday after Thanksgiving, which is a traditional holiday in more rural parts of Pennsylvania. Bulk waste collection is December 13th to 17th, and Christmas is scheduled for the 24th and 25th of this year. End of my report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the manager? Would you go back to the, yeah, thank you, Alex. Any comments or questions for the manager? No, okay, moving on, committee reports. We don't have any committee reports. Do you have any member of the board wish to elaborate on any of the committees that may have met up to now? Yeah, okay, Betsy, go ahead.
Yep, I'll go first since I'm here. So very quickly, on the, an update on the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, or the CAP. There was a deadline of last Friday to receive comments from all of the 6 municipalities. Harris requested an extension, which they were given, and Pam Adams and I met with that board on Monday evening, and I believe that we addressed their concerns, so that is scheduled to go ahead, I hope, to the general forum at the end of the month for approval. So that would be the CAP again. Second item, the increase in price that people will see in their bills from the waste management service. There will be an increase of 12 cents for all levels of 12 cents a month, I believe, for all levels of service, and that is due to a fuel increase. The contract that we have with Waste Management and that we actually had with the previous company allows for changes due to increases in fuel and one other item, I forget which it is. And last, the refuse contract transition from, I forget the name of our old
Advanced disposal
to waste management. There were a lot of glitches, in particular with service gaps and what were they called? Fines for people who had not paid their bills on time, but it was actually more due to the Waste Management getting up to speed with their records department. So I would like to, again, thank and congratulate our Refuse, Recycling and Programs Administrator, Shelley Mato, for the work that she did with Waste Management in the Administration Department, and she has reached out several times and come up with a suggestion for essentially of a grace period for people whose bills are late, but it's because of some, glitch in the accounting system. So that is being ironed out. Thank you, Shelley.
All right, thank you, Betsy. Any other comment?
Comment for the Joint Public Safety, Public Service, and Environmental Transportation and Land Use Committee, since they just met yesterday. I'll have their report on our next meeting.
Okay. Parks Capital, anything to report, Anita?
There was a lot of discussion, and that I've got a written report that you'll see for next week's
Okay.
meeting. There were no action items.
Okay, good. Finance Committee meets not tomorrow, it actually meets next week. What's that, the 18th?
Yes, the 18th.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, you probably didn't.
Normally, we would have met on the 11th.
Yeah, no, that's our normal meeting.
Yes.
Date. No other committee reports. We have in your packet a report from the Center County Airport Authority by our representative George Downsborough, and there is, and is that it?
I have one other thing. Good.
One one more.
The PSAT, which is Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, it just celebrated their 100th anniversary and created a book of memories. If anybody would like to borrow this and look at it, I have it here, and leave it available to the board members to pass around, and then we'll put it in the lobby for anybody else who wants to come in and see it.
Looks like it's well read.
Thank you.
A little shipping damage.
We're at the end of our agenda. Any other business to bring before the board? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Rob, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Supervisor Whitman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. The meeting's adjourned.